let me give you some numbers. I asked both Paul DeLong and Dick Steffes to give me their numbers on the amount of property within Wisconsin, federal, like the 2 national forests, state and county areas that are open to hunting. And they came up pretty close to each other, but because they were a little bit different, what I did was I averaged them together. And currently, and I would call these fellows our experts on this, there are 7,555,837 acres of land currently available for hunting in the state of Wisconsin. Now that's a significant amount. And tomorrow, when we vote on the 21 pieces of property that Dick Steffes has before us, I heard someone today say, and I'm not sure, I frankly didn't think about this, but someone in our discussion today said there are going to be 8,200 more acres in the state of Wisconsin that are going to be available for hunting if we pass those 21 requests from the real estate department for hunting. So we certainly are not circumventing and shrinking the amount of hunting land we have in the state. And the stewardship money that we spend on hunting, making the 5 BOAs available available to hunters expands every single month when we approve real estate. So I don't think that we are limiting hunting at all. I think we are limiting the kind of hunting in state parks, but we aren't limiting hunting.
Jane, if I may, Mr. Chairman, if I may, just real quickly, I'm not even going to be here, I'm not even saying that I disagree with your perspective on that. What I'm trying to remind the board of, and myself of many times, is that that's not our decision. There was a decision made through the elected officials of the state who have decided that they want to see advanced opportunities for folks in our state parks. And that is a department, it's our responsibility to carry out the will of the elected officials, of the legislature, not to debate it or to disagree, which I respect that you do. That's not our role. Our role now is to carry out what that directive is. And that's what our staff has been charged to do and has done an extraordinary amount of work in order to try and balance the passions, the spirit, the feelings, the fears, to educate the public, to try and get people to understand that we believe we can have a proper balance there. But ours is not to debate what the elected officials decided. That was our, and I think the vote in the state senate was like 32-1 or something.
I know, but we're hearing, and they even came and said, we're not sure that we should have done this. They're even starting to waffle a little bit.
The bottom line, Madam Secretary, is that they didn't tell us to what degree to do this. They left it up to us. And if we look at it and say, we're doing a sufficient amount now, and 4 board members agree with that, we have met, we can say we have met the letter of the law if we haven't indeed with James and met the spirit. Okay?
And as we purchase property, or as we go through new master plans for parks, we'll have to assume that on the new day, every acre is open and then work backwards.
There is nothing to stop the administration from coming back in January and saying, we think that this part should be expanded and we'll deal it on a one-to-one. We were told today, I think by the representative, that this wasn't the end of it. We could keep on dealing with this. Not that I want to, but we could. Terry.
Unfortunately, I don't think that about how many million acres of hunting land has anything to do with the conversation. The conversation has to do with whether or not we're going to allow hunting and trapping in state parks, period. That's what our focus needs to be on. I like Dave's idea. I understand the Secretary's obligation. I think we also have an obligation. I like Dave's idea of saying, okay, you will allow hunting from November 15th till December 15th.
And the month of April.
Yeah. Then we did our duty. We've listened to staff in terms of these areas are reasonable, safe areas. I mean, they had the responsibility also public safety when they drafted their proposals to us. And I can't buy the idea of just saying, we're going back to how it was before, because that's not our charge. So is there a motion on the floor right now?
There is, I don't think your amendment had a second, so
Yeah.
that's off.
Let's call the question.
So there is a motion on the
There
floor.
is a
right?
motion, which is Bill's, to go back, and if you want to, we would have to vote on that motion. If it's defeated, we could then have a motion that we adopt this thing and limit it to those time periods.
Well, Mr. Chairman, you know, if Terry wants to offer that as an amendment to my motion, let's see what happens to that amendment. Those hunting periods.
So adopting your amendment is, if the amendment passes, then it's in a little conflict with your original motion.
Because he's adopting.
Take a vote on the main motion. If we get
with
4, it
restrictions
goes
on
through.
it.
If we don't, we don't.
Yeah, possibly.
If you want to withdraw yours and let him try his, that's another option. They're really two separate things.
Yeah, okay. I'm fine with voting on the motion that's on the floor.
I call the question.
Okay,
Roll call. We have to, I guess.
so we are voting on going back to where it was in 2012. Okay, roll call, Lauren.
William Bruins,
Yes?
Christine Thomas,
Yes.
Terry Hilgenberg,
No.
Greg Kazmierski,
No.
Preston Cole,
No.
Jane Wiley,
Yes.
David Clausen,
No. Terry?
I'd like to move that we move forward with the staff's proposal. However, we limit the period of hunting from, and trap, any of the activities, excuse me, to November 15 through December 15 and the month of April, period.
Okay.
This is a point of order, I guess, with Tim. I've got 3 amendments. Do we vote on, I would provide the amendments first, which have been written by the staff. These are not my brainstorms, but anyway. So I would present the 3 amendments, we would vote on those, and then we would vote on the full.
Right, but you have to introduce the amendments as an amendment to Terry's motion.
That hasn't got a second.
So we
That
have,
hasn't been seconded yet.
I'll
right?
second it. Well, you seconded it, Bill? Okay. All right, Jane, you have amendments. Go
I
for
have
it.
3 amendments, and again, they were written by the staff, and Kurt very kindly got them going for us. The first one,
I think you should clarify, you must have asked the staff.
I asked them, yes.
They didn't just,
Right, yes, yes. Yeah,
They
yeah,
didn't
Kurt
just mention
did
this and
that,
ask
yeah.
you to introduce them.
Right, I asked Kurt for these, and these are things that we had talked about in terms of working with the parks and also from the listening sessions. Okay. That one, actually, we only have 2 now. The first one would be relating to parks in terms of Natural Resources Board agenda, hunting and trapping. Where do I want to start this? The plan recommends. Okay, this one is yours, Dave. That's yours. That's because of the change in the hunting. You're the one that talked about changing the hunting seasons. Okay, here we go. Hunting. There we go. Okay. Okay, here it is. This amendment requests that the department immediately begin promulgating emergency rules that would make it illegal to shoot from or across any trail which is identified on a map produced by the department as a designated use trail. This provision protects public safety by reducing the likelihood of archery gear and gun discharge from or across locations where people are likely to be present. Straightforward. You can't shoot across a trail
Is that already a rule too, or a law?
Within 100 yards of the trail.
All right.
That's
But you can't shoot across the trail.
across roads,
Across
not
roads.
trails.
Okay.
Okay, so here are copies of that. Let me show you one. Yeah.
So is anybody going to second that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion. Can we do this as a voice vote?
I'm pretty straightforward.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. Okay, the second one has to do with the types of traps. What this says is, this amendment requests that the department immediately begin promulgating emergency rules that would require trappers to use dog-proof traps in marked trap locations while trapping on lands that are part of Wisconsin state parks. This provision protects public safety and personal property by preventing the incidental capture of domestic animals.
Jane, I'm going to, we haven't got a second on that, but I would just make the comment that I don't think that the trappers are, I don't think it's a good policy to have the trappers mark their trap, because it's going to lead to conflicts as far as theft of traps and people setting them off and that type of thing. And
I would take that out of the amendment if that's a problem for people.
So to restrict what kind of
A
traps?
kind of trap, but not that they have to. So is there a second?
Can I just clarification?
Yep.
My apologies, I should know what it says, right? I just want to clarify that what Jane, you're asking us to do is promulgate administrative rules that would
Yes.
restrict the type of traps?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We have to do it that way.
But would that not, do you want to make that part of this motion?
It could be part of this.
Why
We
can't
could,
it just
without
be
a
part of
rule.
this?
it can be part of this.
Because it's
And
specific
why
to
do we have
state
to start
parks.
any process?
Yeah.
I'm here, please.
Because it's an emergency rule.
Right. Your motion, if it's passed, would require us to initiate a process for emergency rules. We'd have to prepare a scope statement, have to be approved by the governor, come back. You would have to approve the scope statements.
Do we have to have an emergency rule to
So-
incorporate this in our action now?
No, what if we just made this a part of the motion?
Right.
We can do that.
Again, it's got to be necessary to protect public safety, not personal property.
Well, the first one's clearly public safety.
Right.
Second one, I think, is questionable.
Okay. So it would be the types of, would be okay with the type of traps that they can use? Is that correct?
I don't know whether it's necessary to do this with the trapping thing. The way I look at this is only a fool would put a trap out there that, oh, wait a second. Would put a trap out there that could catch a dog, because with the amount of people in the parks and that type of thing, the last thing the trappers want is a cell phone video of a pet caught in a trap.
Well, that may very well be true, but once again, we're talking about perception. And we have certainly heard that people are terribly concerned about trapping in state parks. And I think this, if we go ahead and do this as an emergency rule, which is no big deal. The trappers have been so incredibly supportive of recognizing that this is an issue for people. And I think we can respond to that as well if we adopt this as an emergency rule, so that we are saying to the public, as well as to the trappers, we appreciate your input and we are dealing with it the way you suggested we should.
How much time does it take?
I don't think it has to be a rule. The trap doesn't have to be. We can restrict certain types of traps on a state park, can't we?
If necessary to protect public safety.
Which could be
The type of
Yeah.
trap?
perceived of conveyors and.
Right.
So it's love me, love my dog.
All right,
So that would
so
take board action.
So you don't think we need to?
Yes, it would.
It will take board action?
Yeah,
Within
either
this-
today or as a follow-up emergency rule if you so
Make
directed.
a motion for the trap.
I did, I
Okay.
did. And we're omitting the flagging.
I'll second.
okay. So all those of discussion.
Well, I'd like to maybe just add a little bit to your thing of
we're still on
Board
this
is
stuff
voting.
before we get to that.
Right.
We haven't
Oh,
voted
we
on
haven't
it.
done it.
Run the traps.
Right.
I like the traps.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, any further discussion on the trap amendment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That amendment is carried. Now we're back to
Any
the,
other amendments?
No,
Are there
this
any
is
other
an amendment
amendments?
to his motion. Is what we're, those were
Those two
amended
things are in the motion.
in the
right now.
motion. Okay.
Now it's your motion.
Just in regards to Terry's motion, this is kind of, originally when we looked at this, we, one of the things we're shooting for here is simplification, consistency. Because we are dealing with public that may not follow seasons as closely, so we wanted some consistency across the board. One of the concerns that I have about an arbitrary end date, specifically, I also have a little bit of a concern about an arbitrary beginning date, but probably more so on the end. To have a season just arbitrarily end on December 15th, a little bit of a concern about that. It could end the start of a hunting season or in the middle of. I guess just for some consideration, and the same thing for the month of April, that could be ending in the middle of a turkey hunting period. Again, just for the consistency aspect of this is how we manage hunts currently. We would be taking away some opportunity from turkey hunters because we do have many of our seasons that are open for the 3 turkey periods. So I guess if it would be a consideration just for your discussion, if it were to be through the end of the 3rd turkey period versus just the month of April. And one thing to consider, I'm searching for a date here, I guess in December, but if it were after at least the 4-day December kind of deer hunt.
and no, December 15th is always going to be after that, and November 15th is always going to be before the start of the rifle season.
We currently have archery hunting that goes through the whole month of December in some state parks.
Well,
So you need to cut that out.
So you could bring that back as an individual amendment. You can do that. You can bring that back at a future board meeting and just say, we've done this in this part. Because we can limit the type of weapons, you can extend the archery season if you want to do that. You can take a vote at the board.
Right.
But excuse me, Jim.
So if we said with the exception of the follow the archery season, would that satisfy the issue?
That's from the middle of September or somewhere there about.
No, the end I'm talking about. The end of
If you were to add the late archery season, so if it were hunting to begin on November the 15th, allowing archery season to continue through the end of the archery season, which I believe is January 5th, first week of January. January.
We can do that only for archery.
this is kind of the motion that I was going to make. And what I would like to do, but start it a little bit before January 15th, because typically we're not going to, the archery hunting would be November 1st to the end of the December season. If we could add that motion,
Go ahead.
if we could add this to it.
I don't have an issue with extending the end date for archery to the end of the archery season, but for consistency, I think we need to do a consistent date all across the board. It's still, in the parks where there's only archery, that still gives you a few days of the rut, and
This year would have been 2 days.
well,
November 1st.
My concern about the November 1st date was at least at the listening session in Appleton, was very, very strong concern about, they have a bunch of activities up, in particular in Door County, that would be in conflict with that cat. So
With gun hunting, but not bow hunting typically.
what do we do for bow hunting right now in the Door County state parks?
Specific parks, and Dan will correct me here, Peter or Bridget, but I believe it's my understanding that we don't have early archery hunting. So typically that archery season will begin following the 9-day gun deer season, where we do allow archery hunting in parks.
We have early archery in just a couple of properties. It's very, very limited. Buckhorn State Park is one of those. We have a couple others, but it's extremely limited.
so if you want to come back to us in January and propose specific things for those parks, I think the board would be open to looking at that. I am going to amend Terry's motion to say that the archery will continue through the end of the archery season.
That would be a friendly amendment, I would certainly accept that.
Okay.
What day is that scheduled for now?
January 4th.
January 5th, it would end next year, in January 5th, 2014.
So when does it,
Are there any more amendments?
November 15th for.
Any more discussion?
give us those dates again.
So what is the motion?
Just
Well,
before the vote, we just
we
need
were
to
just
clarify.
discussing the Buckhorn issue.
Okay, you want to fold that in?
I guess I would. you
Well,
know,
there's two other properties I'd like to deal with too, in that same regard, because we have people coming to us wanting to do some stuff. So, one was Governor Knowles,
No,
Governor Nelson. Governor Nelson. So I have, Buckthorn would have been in a change that I would have made
Okay,
as
well, why
as.
don't you go ahead?
Well, it's the same, I mean, we had people come to us wanting to make changes. The Buckthorn change that he spoke about, I'd like to make that change.
So that it would, Buckhorn would, or Buckhorn would stay as is, right?
Yes.
The archery would stay as is.
And we would,
The season dates start on
September 15th.
and to eliminate the hunting at Governor Nelson State Park.
I'll second that, I'll second that.
I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
and then,
All right.
can we just get clarification, we just need some clarification, I think, for the purposes of our maps and Tim's notes.
Lori's.
More for Lori's. I'll
Yeah,
trust
we need
Lori's notes
somebody to
first.
reiterate back to us what we have all done here.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay.
We have a motion to adopt the department's recommendations with the season dates of November 15th through December 15th, and the month of April through the end of the third turkey, or through the end, April 1 through the end of the third turkey period. And we have, also in there is restricting the use of traps to the dog-proof traps. And
No shooting across trails.
no shooting across trails.
And our,
what would the
And the
traps
archery
be?
changes with Buckhorn and with
Governor Nelson?
Governor Nelson.
and the archery season.
Yes, and the archery season continues till the end of the archery season. Got that now, Tim? Come on,
We
you're
got
gonna take the
everything
big
except
box.
what's the trapping dates?
Same.
Yep.
December, or November 15th to December 15th?
When does the archery season end?
January 5th, something like that. The first weekend of January. The first weekend of January. All right.
Just a point of clarification, the shooting across trails, you're not closing an area to hunting under Act 168. What you're doing is you're imposing a hunting method restriction, and that you need to do by rule. I mean, what you're doing here is you have authority to close areas that you find it's necessary to protect public safety.
Okay.
The trail is still, you're not closing anything, you're just saying you can't shoot across the trail. That's a hunting regulation that you need to adopt by rule. So Jane's original motion, where the board requires us to follow up with an emergency rule on that, is correctly stated.
So we'll pull that out of this and we'll do that separate.
And then we just propose that as a separate.
Separate.
Okay, so that part is out. The shooting across the trails is out, and that will be handled by a separate emergency rule.
Okay, so one more time, what have we got?
One more time, we have adopt the department's proposal with the season dates of November 15th through December 15th, except for archery, which will run through the end of the regular archery season. And the 1st of April through the end of the third turkey period, and the banning the trap thing.
And
Buckhorn and Governor
Nelson. Well, and for folks out in the audience that may not know, the third turkey season is always done at the end of April. So give or take a day or two. But it's always done the Friday and then Saturday after the end of the turkey season starts.
Terry?
Does staff have any other major issues?
I think they've got a lot of.
They need sleep.
I mean, are they comfortable with where we're going?
No, they're probably not, but we get to do what we get to do.
And the only thing that wasn't mentioned in this last reiteration is the trapping season, would that begin on November 15th?
Yes.
Go through
All right, any further discussion? We're going to have a roll call vote. Lauren, call roll, please.
William Bruins,
Yes.
Christine Thomas,
Yes.
Terry Hilgenberg,
Yes.
Greg Kazmierski,
Yes.
Holy Jesus.
Jane Wiley,
Yes.
David Clausen.
Yes. We are
Thanks to you guys.
adjourned until 8:30 tomorrow morning. Thank you all very much.